What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. Oh, my God. Welcome back, Jessie Coffield. She has returned from her 3-week baby moon. We have missed you.
I was not on a 3-week vacation.
You have been gone forever.
I was at the Super Bowl working.
Thanks for the magnet, though. St. Martin, y'all. Let's go.
St. Martin. I don't know why he's saying it that way. Very uncultured. More importantly, happy 2/22/22.
Yeah!
The so-called Tuesday, do you get it? Tuesday has happened just once before in the year 1011. But after today, it will never happen again.
You know what it's called? It's called a palindrome and an ambigram. But you guys didn't get...
Ambigram?
Yep.
Is that a word?
Yeah, that is absolutely a word. You guys and gals knew that already. Yep, especially my dude Pierce Dietrich. We do have some PGA Tour and some hockey to get to. But first things first, it's time to keep Bukes employed.
Yay!
With Steve Buchanan, Pierce Dietrich, Gary and Thorne. Hello, everybody.
Yes, DraftKings contributor Steve Buchanan is in a little bit of a situation, bit of a pickle. He's usually our resident NFL and MLB guy, but only problem is NFL is over and MLB is in a lockout with no signs of ending. So, in this segment, we are to let Steve give some other sports a shot while our real experts tell him how he did. So, Steve, are you ready?
Yeah, we, the tin can is ready for change if it gets to that point, but we are ready.
Awesome, dude. There's some great benches around my apartment you can sleep on. Do not worry. Trust me. All right, we're going to start with a layup here. We're going to ease into this thing. You can still bet baseball futures on the DraftKings Sportsbook. So, Steve, which future bet do you have your eye on right now, even in this ongoing lockout?
Yeah, there's still a lot that needs to be churned out when it comes to free agency once this lockout hopefully ends for the sake of me and my family. With that being said, as it stands right now, I think the White Sox to win the American League at 5-1 is a really solid bet that you can make. Before everything was locked out, they had a really solid signing for the back of that bullpen with Kendall Graveman, future Mariners Hall of Famer. That's really bolster one of their strongest points on their team. These odds are tied, the same as the Yankees and the Blue Jays, two teams who are very much going to be in the mix as well. But this White Sox team is basically staying the same from what we saw last year. This was a team that got on base a ton, 339 team on base percentage last year. That was the third highest mark in the league. They're getting the pitching staff back. They're getting that lineup back. They're only going to get better as these hitters mature. I like taking them to win the American League 5-1.
All right, good stuff. Garion, is there a baseball futures bet, MLB futures bet on the DK Sportsbook you like?
Well, I don't mind that one, that's for sure. Picking the only good above average team in that entire awful division is a pretty good way to go. The White Sox are just guaranteed to make the playoffs. It's a good start. I'm looking at the hits leader props. You got good odds on virtually anybody. The favorite, quote unquote, on this particular prop is 11-1, I think. Bo Bichette, who's, a pretty nice bet in this particular category, because what you're looking for here are guys that just swing a lot. You don't want any walks. You want contact hitters who are more than willing to just swing at the first, second, and third pitch of every at bat. Vladdy walks too much. Juan Soto, who's 15-1, he walks too much. That's just how these things work. I'm looking at Aussie Albies at plus 1,500. When you look at Albies, he was one of 4 qualified players last season to have a swing rate above 55% and a strikeout rate below 20%. Aggressive hitters that make contact. That's the key here. When you look at Albies specifically, he's going to be hitting atop that Braves lineup, whether it's leadoff or second, depending how he slots in with Ronald Acuna Jr. returning. But he's going to get the plate appearances, and he was kind of unlucky last season. He had a 278 BABIP that was the worst of his career. Basically, every projection system has him hovering around 299, which is his career average anyway. So I think there's some normalization coming for Albies. I think he's got the plate appearances to do it, and I think he's got the archetype to do it as well. So I think 15-1 is some pretty nice odds.
Okay, Pierce, do you like Steve's pick of the White Sox taking the American lead? They seem to have that ideal balance of youth to go along with veteran leadership.
I like targeting the AL Central, but I'm going to take a long shot since it is February. And as Gary mentioned, this is a pretty bad division, so it's not going to take much for the Twins to come out of this division. So take the Minnesota Twins at plus 8,000. The lineup's great. the lineup, you've got Mitch Garver batting in the bottom of this lineup. You've got Miguel Sano, if he can limit the strikeouts, batting in the bottom of this lineup. If Trevor Larnach can come back, if Alex Kirilloff will get healthy, if Buxton is healthy, they've got plenty of prospects down in the minors that they can call up. They can trade also. Bailey Over is going to take a step forward. Joe Ryan's going to take a step forward. You've got decent pitchers in Maeda, that and Dylan Bundy, not great, but good enough in that division that they can hang around. If they make a late season trade and get an ace, they sneak into the playoffs with a wild card, which definitely is on the table through the AL Central. You get in the playoffs and anything can happen. I mean, obviously it's a long shot, but it's February. I wouldn't rule out the Twins at this point.
All right, time to show us what you really got, Steve.
Yeah.
The NBA is in the All-Star break, so no games tonight, but there are a ton of futures you can get in on. Championship odds, player awards, scoring futures, all available to you. So give us your best NBA bet and analysis.
This is absolutely amazing that this show is on the air for people to watch, and I'm being thrown an NBA question. What a time to be alive. The Sixers to win the Eastern Conference at plus 350. Like, that has to be something that people are considering at this point, right? Now, Gary, let me ask you. The Nets to win this right now at plus 230, that has to be a bad bet right now, correct? That can't be a play that people are looking to make.
It's the strangest odds in the world, yeah.
I was looking at this and I said, this can't be correct, but this is why I don't follow this sport, because I could be completely wrong. But, obviously once, we need Simmons to make his debut, Durant should be cleared, maybe mid-March at best like this. Now we get the proverbial, MVP and Joel Embiid, getting James Harden in the mix too as well, getting plus 350 on this team, which kind of feels like a juggernaut to a layman by me. Plus 350 for this team to win the Eastern Conference feels like a solid bet from someone who has no idea what they're talking about.
Hey, Garion, is it a solid bet from someone who does know what they're talking about?
Yeah, I do like this bet. I will say the Eastern Conference right now is in absolute turmoil. There are 4.5 games, I believe, separating the team that is currently in first place from the team that is in 7th place. So, with the new NBA format, with the play-in games, obviously, if you're making a bet to win the conference, you would prefer a team not have to play a one-and-done play-in game. It's a little nerve-wracking. So, yeah, that speaks to, again, how crazy it is the Nets have the best odds to win the Eastern Conference, considering they are currently in 8th place. There is no timeline for Ben Simmons to come back. It seems like Kevin Durant might be back within a few games of the All-Star break. That's something to keep an eye on. But, even their next 5 games, I don't think Kyrie can play in 4 of them because 1's in Canada and 3 are in New York. So there's a lot going on with the Nets right now. So I think pretty much anyone else, whether it's the Heat, whether it's the Bucks, whether it's the 76ers, there has been a big adjustment made in recent days about the Celtics number. The Celtics number was super live for a while. Obviously, winning 9 of 10 games is going to have a quick adjustment to that. They're now 11-1. But, yeah, I think that group of 3, the Bucks, the 76ers, and the Heat, there's some value to be had there if you are someone who is just finds that Nets number appealing in no way.
All right, well, this is where the rubber meets the road here. It's time to step into Pierce's world. It's a shame that we don't have Jeff Ulrich here because he's also a NASCAR expert. We just had the Daytona 500. People are clamoring for more NASCAR. Steve, what bet can you give the people in the motorsports section of the DK Sportsbook? Please do tell.
Oh, you actually really want an answer for this one?
Yeah.
No, we really do. Just make something up.
All right. Kyle Busch to win the Wise Power 400 at 8-1.
Yes.
He's won at this track 3 separate times already in his career. 2013, 2014, 2019. Is that right, Pierce? Say yes. Nod your head.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I still got more info. So once upon this time, this race was a 500, and then they brought it down to 400. That just goes to show that nobody wants to watch this sport. So they had to subtract 100 miles off the sport to try to get people somewhat entertained. But since that's happened, Busch has a top 3 finish in 7 of the 9 races. So he can't go 500. He's got to go 400. His stamina is very low. He can't go over 500. You know what? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Kyle Busch, 8-1, Wise Power 400. I'm going to bet that myself.
Oh, Pierce. Second best odds to win this race, dude. Steve's on to something here.
Well, Steve is absolutely correct. They shrunk these races from 500 miles down to 400 miles because no one wants to watch them. NASCAR will admit that. I mean, this is not some sort of theory. It's too long. So 400 miles might even be a little too long as well. But hey, for 400 miles, Kyle Busch definitely has a shot. I think Larson's probably your best bet. Take the guy that's the favorite. Busch is fine. One of the concerns with Busch, those were all high downforce races. This is going to be a little bit lower downforce. That might hurt him a little bit. I think he's fine. If you want to take a longer shot and maybe hope for some wrecks and cautions at the end, which I think people probably watching and paying attention to this, if they're going to watch, they want to see chaos and mayhem and long shots. So if you're going that route, then Chase Briscoe has a shot of surviving the wrecks and maybe making something happen at the end of the race.
Okay,
That was my
Chase
second
Briscoe. I was going to say plus 5,000. You can get some good value there.
Well, speaking of chaos and long shots and mayhem, as we found out in this segment, you don't have to be an expert to have a take. So how about all of you dive deep into the DK Sportsbook and give us a bet on something a little more obscure, perhaps. Right now we got odds on the Oscars, cricket, darts, you name it. We got it.
You got a dart in your neck, dude.
What do you like, Garion?
Garion, you're on mute.
Muted yourself.
Come on, man. There.
I didn't want to interfere with the hot NASCAR team.
I know.
Look, I looked into some of the more obscure sports, and I was worried about like pronunciations and stuff. So I'm just gonna go with the Academy Awards because movie titles are kind of easy sometimes. I'm gonna take the favorite here for Best Picture, Power of the Dog. It is minus 200. It's not amazing value by any means, but when you look at the odds for Best Director, Jane Campion is minus 750 to win Best Director for this film. 70% of the time in the history of the Academy Awards, the person who wins Best Director, their film wins Best Picture. It has happened 3 of the past 4 years. I think if you're going to bet on, Campion to win Best Director, don't do that. Just bet minus 200 Power of the Dog to win Best Picture.
Have you seen any of those movies?
I've seen Dune, so I don't know, 16 to 1.
Okay.
I saw Dune too.
Oh, Chalamet Hive.
Yeah.
I heard you had to see that in IMAX. It was crazy.
I didn't see it in IMAX, but I did see
Okay.
it. Steve, which obscure bet do you like?
Yeah, I'm going to the world of darts because I feel very passionate about this one. Taking Joe Cullen on the money line at plus 105 against Michael Smith. This is the 5th time these two Titans have met up against each other. The series is tied 2-2 in this Lifetime series. Cullen dominated the first 2 matchups, but Smith has roared back since, winning 2 in a row since then, taking the last event down by a score of 10-5. He must have hit a couple of bullseyes to win by 5 points in that one. So I'm taking Smith to come back. I'm taking Cullen to come back and win this series. Plus 105 on the money line. He is not going to show his family that he is losing 3 in a row to Smith. He's taking this one down.
Don't disappoint your family, man.
Wow, I am impressed with
Me
that
too.
take. I believe you. Pierce, which obscure bet are you going with?
I hate having to follow Steve all the time.
Sorry.
I go first next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So obscure to me is golf, and I'm going to go with Brandon Hagee at plus 30,000. I know this is probably not obscure to other people, but it is to me. And I think it's strange that this guy has such long shot odds, considering he finished 2nd at this tournament last year. I know he's missed a bunch of cuts this season, and he misses a bunch of cuts every season, but for whatever reason, this course works for him. I don't know why. I'm not the golf expert, but I can see that he finished 2nd here last year and finished pretty well in previous seasons, and 30,000 seems like, hey, this might not be obscure and goofy, but this looks like it might possibly happen. So try it.
All right. We are going to have our gorgeous golf gurus later in this show. Maybe we'll run that by them and see what they think. But that was phenomenal. As of right now, 11:13 Eastern Time on 2/22/22, Steve is still employed. So we are going to attempt to keep you employed again later in this show. We'll give you a shot at golf and a few other fun sports. But next, we will talk some hockey with Pete and Paul, the Killer Peas, right after this. All right, back here on this Tuesday edition of The Sweat. I'm Emerson Lotzia, Jessie Coffield, back from her 5-week vacation. And now, everybody, we have a 6-game NHL slate on the docket tonight. Steve is not here to talk about it, but we do have Paul Bruno from RotoWire and also Pete Jensen, host of the Fantasy on Ice podcast for NHL.com. I'm very excited for this segment of NHL Opening Faceoff.
So am I. Paul's guy, Austin Matthews, is the highest priced center on the slate tonight in a very favorable matchup against Columbus. However, he has been held off the score sheet in his last 2 games. So is Matthews a fade for you tonight at that price, Paul?
I fade him, but I'm going to use his line mates because he's just too expensive tonight. That's the only reason. But there's 4 other mismatches on the board at center, Jesse, that I want to touch on real quick. Barkov for $8,300 versus a reeling Preds team. People may not know they're on a 4-game losing streak right now. He has 13 points and 37 shots on goal in his last 10, primed for another big offensive output to lead the NHL's highest scoring team. Ryan Hartman of Minnesota is similarly profiled, $6,800, a cheap price tag for him. Center on their first line, 11.3 DraftKings points per game on the year, centering a top power play unit against an Ottawa club. And then Thomas Hertl is centering the hottest winger in the league, Timo Meier, right now. $5,500 his price tag at Anaheim. He's got 9 points in his last 10 games. And finally, Ryan O'Reilly, $5,700 for a St. Louis club that should be all over Philadelphia tonight.
All right, Pete, what do you think? Matthews a fade because he's just too pricey here?
Yeah, it's tough with Toronto. It's so fickle. You know, you love them one game, you can't stand them the next game when they lose to Montreal. So it's really tough to gauge Toronto on a nightly basis. I'd much rather have Alexander Barkov for $1,000 cheaper in DraftKings price. Couple other guys I like on the center position, definitely Joel Erickson Eck. With what he's doing on Minnesota's first power play, I think is a really good value at the center position, and still a guy over $5,000 that you'll have to spend a bit for, but he's got 5 points in his past 4 games, and a bunch of those coming on the first power play unit where he plays with Kaprizov and Zuccarello and Matt Boldy. So never a bad thing to get some Minnesota Wild action in your DFS lineup because they're extremely deep, and Erickson Eck is proof of that, because he plays on their third line at even strength.
All right, well, some solid plays. I'm looking here at the wing tonight, above 7K. Kaprizov, you've got Marner, Meier, which Paul's already mentioned, Tarasenko, all going up against teams that like to give up goals, too. So who is your favorite high-priced option on the wing tonight, Paul?
If you want Toronto exposure, like I said, I want to go for Mitch Marner. Save $1,000 on the Matthews tag and take Marner here. I think the Leafs are going to be really ticked off, and then they're going to take it out on a Columbus team that's going to be fielding their third string goalie tonight. Timo Meier, I said, he's the play on the wing for me. 8 goals his last 10 games, along with 49 shots on goal in his last 10. That's the most prolific shooter in the league right now among the wingers. And then Matt Zuccarello. I mean, Pete touched on Minnesota's offense, and Zuccarello's been a key part of that. 16 points in his last 10 games played. You get him for $6,500 tonight.
All right, Pete, where are you going here on the wing, man?
I'm going Patrick Laine, the other side of that Toronto matchup against Columbus. I mean, nobody's hotter than this guy. He's got a 9-game point streak with 18 points in the span. That's real points, so not DraftKings. Really impressive what he's been able to do in a bounce-back season since coming back from that injury. You know, he's been extremely motivated, and he's looking like the Patrick Laine of old, where 3-4 years ago you would have said, who are the, 2 hands worth of most exciting players in the NHL. Patrick Laine certainly would have been on that list. He's playing with Boone Jenner and Jacob Voracek. Jenner's having a breakout season. Voracek is a great distributor, so that all affects Patrick Laine. And when you look at Toronto giving up, those goals over the weekend to the Blues, and then, bad outing against Montreal recently, it's the stage is set for Patrick Laine to continue what he's been doing in a very positive light fantasy-wise.
All right, on defense tonight, we can't ignore Aaron Ekblad of the Panthers. No. He's had a goal. He's had an assist in each of his last 3 games. He is going to cost you $6,500, but is he too hot to ignore on the blue line, Pete?
You definitely want to try to get some Florida Panthers in your lineup tonight, whether it's spending up for Ekblad, spending down for Mason Marchman on their third line with what he's had breaking the slates lately. He had a 6-point game. He had a hat trick last Friday. So I wouldn't mind a little Ekblad for first power play exposure for Florida, and then stack him with an even strength teammate like Mason Marchman to ride the hot hand there. On defense, I'm also looking at Justin Faulk. He's got a 6-game point streak, 1 goal, 5 assists in the span. Good coverage as well, with 15 shots and 10 blocks in that 6-game point streak. And he plays on the second pair with Torrey Krug, so you get that bump from an offensive standpoint. And of course, the Philadelphia Flyers are a ripe matchup for almost anybody these days. They're allowing the 5th most shots on goal per game in the NHL. So pretty much any given night, no matter who they're playing, they're getting peppered. So more times than not, that results in scoring for especially such a deep offense like St. Louis this year. And they're getting Vladimir Tarasenko back. So that's even more strong players that Justin Faulk is going to be playing with at even strength tonight.
All right, Paul, how do you feel about this? Do you want to spend up for Ekblad?
No, I think there's better options, and I love the one that Pete highlighted. I'm all over that Justin Faulk call. I think it's a great one, so I'm going to put him in my lineup too. Give me a chance to go a little bit higher, but not quite as high as Ekblad. I'm going to take Morgan Riley of the Leafs. Career best scoring pace on the season, 43 points in 49 games. The most consistent Toronto player all season long. And he is going to be a guy that gets in that dressing room and lights a fire under this team tonight. I expect a big effort from the blue and white. And then I also like a bit of that Florida action. Pete made the case for them. Mackenzie Weegar is a guy we haven't talked about much this season, but he's contributed 30 points in 50 games for the club, 27 shots on goal, 13 blocks in his last 10. And don't forget Nashville's on that 4-game losing streak, so I think Florida's going to be all over them tonight.
All right, dudes, let's talk value play here. Who is your favorite on this entire slate, Paul?
3 guys stand out for me. Braden Shen, $4,200, 7 goals, 4 helpers in his last 10 games played. He's averaged almost 12 DraftKings points per game in that stretch, and that should be the floor tonight against Philadelphia. Sam Reinhart for Florida, $4,900. He's a point per game guy on their second line an offense this year, 13 points, and in his last 10 games played, 14.6 DraftKings points per game in his last 10 outings. That tells me he's well above his season average, 4 points above it, in fact, in that stretch most recently. And then I got to take a little piece of the Toronto offense for cheap dollars. Alec Turfoot, cheap exposure to Leafs second line, which has been in the doghouse for a while. I think they break out tonight. He's got 7 points in his last 10 games, so he's doing his part offensively too, in the throes of that slump for the rest of the other guys. And I don't believe another third-string goalie is going to limit Toronto's offense tonight on back-to-back nights. Do you think?
I don't know, but it's not a shocker to hear you having some exposure to Toronto at all. Let's go, Pete. Favorite value play on this entire slate, dude?
I mean, the fact that Sam Reinhart from the Panthers, who we mentioned have a great matchup, the fact that he's sub $5,000 is insane. I mean, he has 47 points in 47 games this year. And I mentioned how he's playing on the third line with Mason Marchman, Anton Lundell, arguably the best third line in the league. If you have the cash to spend up extra $500, it's a huge upgrade over Marchman, who I mentioned earlier, because, yeah, again, $4,900 is amazing value for a point per game player this deep in the season. And then one of the other guys I mentioned earlier, Jacob Voracek, playing with Patrick Laine and Boone Jenner, he's only $3,900. And he's on power play 1 with that strong unit, Zach Werenski, Patrick Laine. They've been cooking lately. So, yeah, maybe get sprinkle in a little more Columbus action. Not to say that you would overlook Toronto, because it could be a high-scoring game. But don't sleep on those Blue Jackets, because they can hang with anybody on the scoreboard lately. Even in some of their losses, they score like 4 or 5 goals.
All right, good stuff, Pete, Paul. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time, as always. Quick break here, and then we're going to have some golf gurus on. We're going to talk PGA next. Good morning and hello to our PGA panel, DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and the Action Network's Jason Sobel. Fellas, you are here to break down the Honda Classic, all right? Break down the odds. It's the first leg of the PGA Tour's Florida swing from PGA National.
I know, we're having Sobel on live. This is a lot of pressure for our guy. All right, let's start with a quick look back at last week here. Joaquin Niemann walking away with the win at the Genesis Invitational. We had one DK sportsbook bettor. Listen to this. He put down $35K on Niemann at plus 2,800 odds. That paid out over $1 million. Ooh. Jason, what did this bettor see that we all missed?
Look, it was good value on Joaquin Niemann. He's a good young player. And I saw a little correlation to what he had done at Torrey Pines for the Farmers Insurance Open, where his first few starts at Torrey, not so good, but then finished in a share of 6th place a few weeks before that. And so didn't have a great record at Riviera, but went out there 63-63 Thursday, Friday, and then held on for the weekend for the wire-to-wire victory. Very impressive stuff for Niemann. Very impressive stuff for a guy or woman who won over 7 figures on him.
For sure. Victory. I mean, like, Jeff, all they had to do was listen to Reed T. Fowler. Reed T. Fowler pushed Niemann, like, in his article on DK Nation. You also slightly mentioned it in our Wednesday edition of the slate, so pat yourself on the back.
Like I said, I just followed the smart people last week. Reed was one of them. But look, I mean, this bettor clearly had a very, very heavy lean to Niemann. If he was placing the bet at 28-1, like when we were talking pre-odds, we were talking like 60-1, 50-1. So I'm not sure when or how this person got it down. Maybe it was in play or something. I don't know. Regardless, this person is amazing because they had a lot of conviction at that number. I mean, Niemann at plus 5,000 or plus 6,000 is a lot different than Niemann at plus 2,800. So shout out to this person. But yes, like Jason said, this is a young player who I think we just kind of saw it coming. I mean, we knew Joaquin Niemann has the talent. I mean, he is, in terms of pure talent, he is right up there with the best in the world. I think he deserves to be in the conversation with guys like Hovland and Morikawa. He just hasn't quite broken through yet, but we're going to see more wins from him. And obviously it started last week. So I think a lot of people aren't too shocked at this result. And there was very good odds to get it done. And if you had the conviction last week, man, it sure paid, as it did for that man or woman, like Jason said.
All right, on to this field, because it is nowhere near as stacked as last week. But Niemann is back in the mix. So at plus 1,800, there are 4 other guys with better odds, including the favorite, Sungjae Im, at plus 1,000. So, Jeff, who stands out to you from these top guys?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, the guy who's going to win this week stands out. It's Louis Oosthuizen. I mean, he's taken a week off. He started his season last week with a T14, gained strokes throughout the bag there. And, you can joke all you want, Emerson. I can hear you chuckling in the background. But who wins? Who typically is the people who come through at the Honda Classic? It's savvy veterans. Matt Jones, guys like Padraig Harrington, good Open Championship players. Jeff Ogilvy has a win here. Adam Scott. Louis has the around the green game to deal with the bunkers here. He's hit it very well in his last 3 starts. He's gaining strokes off the tee again. I really do think this is a very good shot for him to get it done. And if we're looking at the top, I think there's question marks around all the players. Except you can make a case for Billy Horschel, but I'm not really a big Billy Horschel guy at plus 1,800. I'd rather take a shot with my guy, Louis, at plus 1,600 this week.
I mean, if Tom Hoge and Scotty Scheffler can win on the PGA Tour, your guy can win on the PGA Tour.
Appreciate that. And Hudson Swafford.
Yeah, can't forget that guy.
Jason, a couple of guys in that top group, Daniel Berger, Tommy Fleetwood. How do you feel about these guys?
Yeah, so I love Louis Oosthuizen if you're betting on a guy to come in second place. He's never won in the United States. He's been doing this for 15 years. At some point, there's just no win equity to take Louis for a victory. I do think it happens at some point, but boy, you've lost a lot of money for a really long time if you keep betting on Louis to get the win. From this top tier, look, I hate to go chalk, but it's the guy at the top, Sungjae Im, won this tournament 2 years ago. Last year, a tie for 8th place. He's in the top 10 on the PGA Tour this year, not only in strokes gained tee to green, which is important every single week. It's good to get your ball as close to the green as you possibly can. And Sungjae is a premier ball striker, but he's also, I believe, second right now on the PGA Tour in strokes gained around the greens. I love the combination of being a good ball striker, but there are times you're going to miss at PGA National. Very difficult golf course. When you do miss, you've got to be able to get it up and down for par. Sungjae is world class at doing that. And so he's the favorite for a good reason. I don't know that I'm going to dip down and bet him at that number, but if I had to take one of those top 5 or 6 guys on the board this week, he's my guy.
Yeah, Jason. Jeff bets Louis every week, which is why he lives in a cardboard box, and he does the show from his local public library every morning.
Yeah.
Okay, right behind Neiman here, dudes. Brooks Koepka at plus 2,000. It's been a strange year so far for Brooks, really just the past few weeks as well. You can point to that. Small sample size, up and down, missed a cut last week. Finished third in Phoenix, almost made a run there, but had some bad driving in the final round. Missed a cut at the Farmers as well. So what are your thoughts on Brooksy this week, Jason?
I believe Brooks Koepka is probably the most talented player in this field. I also believe he will be a little, let's put it this way, motivationally challenged against this field. We all know what Brooks gets excited about. He gets excited 4 times a year to play the major championships. Now, last week, even though he missed the cut, he might have been a little inspired to play against a field that had all of the top 10 players in the world. This week, we've got none of the top 10 players in the world, only 5 in the top 25. Brooks said recently that he's embarrassed to be outside that top 10. He doesn't think there are that many players who are better than him in the world right now. I just don't see him getting up for a tournament like this. I don't think this is going to be a big week for him. Hold off on your Brooks plays for another 2 months until we get to major championship season.
Okay, Jeff, he is a hard one to peg. I mean, he went to high school 15 minutes from here, tied for second in 2019. What do you think about putting a little bit on him this week?
I mean, I just feel like this field is so wide open. And like Jason said, I think that just betting him at this number in this field, because he probably is the most talented player in the field, is fine. I don't think it's necessarily something you have to go out of your way to do. I'm still debating it personally, but this number does stick out. I mean, you've got guys like Horschel and even my guy Louis and Fleetwood at much smaller numbers than Brooks Koepka. I'm sorry, you're just not going to see that often, right? So I think it's something to really consider this week. I mean, the PGA National, it may not be like a driver-heavy course, but we have seen plenty of U.S. Open winners, plenty of Open Championship winners. There's guys who play well on tough courses come through here. And I think Brooks, if you look at his record at this event, it's a little bit better than people realize. He's had some low rounds at PGA National. He plays here. Like you said, he likes playing in the state of Florida. So I actually like this number. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if the form is quite there for Brooks. I do think the motivation will be there because, I mean, again, he's outside the world top 10, and I think he wants to win pretty badly right now. But I'm just not sure if the form is there. So I'm still debating it. I do think this is a number you won't see on him normally in these type of fields, though. So.
Okay.
All right, Jeff, let's talk about Matt Jones. He was last year's winner. He tied an 18-hole record here in the process. 61 in the first round, rode that all the way to a 5-shot victory. Are you confident that he can put together a nice weekend here? He's plus 5,000 to win, plus 400 for a top 10.
I'm not very confident.
Okay.
That again, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just the type of player that Matt Jones is, right? He's a streaky journeyman type of player. He's got 2 wins now, but the wins came like almost a decade, or not a decade apart, but like 6 years apart or something. And I mean, like Matt Jones he's been an okay. I mean, he's not like terrible this year, but he's nowhere near really the form that we saw from him at the start of last season, where he posted a top 10 at the Genesis. So I think Matt Jones, what you're seeing, why he's at plus 5,000 this week, is just simply he's got the course history, and a lot of guys with good course history this week, they're getting their odds, just sort of slammed down. Like Matt Jones, with his recent form, should probably be closer to plus 10,000, in my opinion. And I think you look at this range, there's just far better values on players who started the season better. Russell Knox certainly comes to mind, plus 6,500. Chris Kirk, a guy I really like, a plus 7,000. I think those are very comparable players, guys who also have multiple PGA wins, and they're just available at way better odds, and they're playing better. So, no, I'm not really interested in Matt Jones. Hopefully he's surprised, and you can all make fun of me again on Monday, as usually happens, but he's not for me this week at this price.
Jason, is the course history enough for you to be interested in that plus 400 for a top 10?
I might be a little more conservative and play a top 20 ticket on Matt Jones. I'm with Jeff. I'm not sure I'm going to go digging too deep into Matt Jones this week. It's hard to be a defending champion. I don't think people realize that you show up this week and, okay, there's more interview requests and autograph requests, and you got to do some stuff for charity, and there's a whole lot of people pulling at you from every direction. So the guys who have won multiple times on the PGA Tour, a Dustin Johnson, a John Rahm, a Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, the guys that are used to it, that have done this a dozen times or more in the past, they understand the time constraints on them. They understand everyone kind of pulling at them. The guys who haven't won that much, like Matt Jones, he's going to show up this week and he's going to go, well, I didn't have enough time to prepare. I didn't have enough time to get myself ready to go out and defend my title. So I don't love him. I certainly don't hate him. I don't think he's going to play terrible golf. But like I said, top 20 tickets probably the furthest I'll go for him this week.
Jason, let's talk about some of the guys you are fading. Is it a little easier this week with a weaker field, or with so much parity, a little more difficult?
No, I think it's more difficult. I think it's more wide open this week. I don't really see too many guys at the top. Joaquin Niemann, if he does indeed stick around to the opening round, I still am skeptical that we're going to see Joaquin Niemann actually tee it up on Thursday morning. But if indeed he does make that cross-country flight and decide to tee it up this week, I'm not sure why, after the mental and physical exertion needed to win and carry that lead for 4 straight days last week. I'm surprised he's playing. And he will be a full fade for me. Look, he's playing with house money. Sometimes that's a good thing at this course where you go, hey, house money, I'm freewheeling it. I can be aggressive out here. Aggressive doesn't work at PGA National on this hard of a golf course. So I don't like him. And the other one, I am very bullish long-term on Matthew Wolfe. I think it's going to be a very good year, a bounce-back year for him. I am not bullish on him in the short term. I think this is as bad a golf course as you can find for Matt Wolfe. In fact, I'm very puzzled as to why he didn't play last week at Riviera, a course which should suit his game pretty well, and decided instead to come over to Florida and play this one this week. But I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach on him. There are times when I'm definitely going to target Matthew Wolfe this year. This will not be one of them.
Yeah, he's got plus 3,500 odds this week. Jeff, is there someone you're a little bullish on? I mean, someone that I guess you're going to steer clear of? I know we talked Daniel Berger a little bit yesterday. Like, he's been a little banged up, right? And his odds are plus 1,600, third best.
Berger's a little bit of a wild card this week, but I just feel like with the talent level that, again, I think you could put him up there with Brooks in terms of just being like the clear kind of top plays. So I'm actually fine using Berger this week. Again, I don't think you need to go out and bet him necessarily at under plus 2,000, but the player I'm more interested in fading is a guy who also played well last week. It's Cameron Young, plus 5,500 now in the betting odds. Those are too short. And if you're jumping on him in DFS, I just feel like you've kind of missed the boat here. This is a really big venue change, as Jason just alluded to. Like it's just the exact opposite of Riviera. We're changing putting greens. There's water everywhere. It's Florida. There's wind. It's open, in pretty much every facet. It's a big ask for like a young player who's coming off like a really mentally exerting week to just come in here and play this for the first time. So I think Cameron Young is a player who, again, I think his long-term prospects are great, but I'm not necessarily running to jump on this week or anything like that. And I think from the top players, I really have questions. I mean, we've seen a lot of English players and foreign players do well at this event, but guys like Lowry and Fleetwood coming in, I think they're better top 10 or top 20 plays than outright plays. So it's not like a straight fade, but I wouldn't be jumping on these guys in the outright odds. I would play them more as sort of, just sort of a low variance plays and in different markets than the outright market. So that's how I'm looking at sort of the foreign guys who haven't really made too many starts yet either.
All right, Jeff, which long shots do you like? Swinging from the West Coast over to Florida. A guy that jumps out here if you move down the board, CT Pan. He was in the top 5 at the Honda Classic last season. He had a T3 finish, and he's coming off a top 10 finish at Riviera.
Dude.
I swear to God, I've had about 10 people tweet at me that it's CT Pan week.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, and now Jesse's on him too. So
I'm
I
on him.
guess, look, if it was Emerson, I'd be dismissing this. But if Jesse likes him, that's a different story. So maybe I should be getting on CT Pan.
Consider him.
I mean, look, the course is good for CT. I mean, he's a great wedge player. He definitely, doesn't mind like the tougher courses. We've seen him win at a comparable course in Hilton Head too. So I don't really mind it. I prefer to go further down the board here though. I prefer to go to Sun Kang at plus 3,000. This is a player gained over 4 strokes on approach in his last start. He's available at plus 700 for a top 20. He's played PGA National multiple times. He's a pretty slick putter too. He's ranked up there in strokes gained putting. His around the green game has been fine of late. I think Sun Kang, if you're looking for a real long shot, a guy at plus 3,000 right now, plus 30,000, on the DraftKings Sportsbook, and plus 700 for a top 20. That's who I like. He's also only 6,600 for DraftKings. That's going to be my long shot target this week.
All right, which long shot guy are you going to target here, Jason?
I've got to give you a few names. I can't narrow it down to just one because I've got a few triple-digit guys that I'm targeting. Instead of a CT pan at 70-1, where there are a bunch of guys in the 50-1 range, if I'm going deep, I'm going really deep this week. Sam Ryder, everyone saw the viral video of him getting a beer shower on 16 in Phoenix a few weeks ago. I think what most people don't realize is the next day he finished in 23rd place. A week after in LA, he finished in 26th, riding a heater and coming back to his home state of Florida. Should be a good one for him. Dylan Fratelli is underpriced in the marketplace. This guy in his last 12 starts, okay, he's missed 6 cuts, but he's also finished in the top 36 times. It's sort of an all or nothing, high ceiling, low floor for Fratelli. He does have some win equity there. Doc Redmond is a guy that I've just been betting nonstop for the past couple of years. Coming back to Bermuda Greens should be nice for him. And the last name that I'll mention, Chase Seifert, was in the field, then wasn't in the field. He got knocked out. Got into a 16-for-1 playoff for the final spot in the Monday qualifier, which bled into Tuesday. Didn't get that spot, but right after he didn't get it, somebody else bowed out of the field. He got back in. This guy finished in the share of 3rd place last year, plays his best golf in Florida. I could see Chase Seifert, the Florida State product, having a really nice week after he wasn't even on the board to start the week.
Jason, before you take off, who wins the Honda Classic? Who's your pick?
My favorite outright this week is, and I've been working on this all week. I've got to get it right if I'm picking the guy. Christian Bezuidenhout.
Yes!
That's the best I can say it. He's really good tee to green, and like I said, you want that combination of a ball striker, tee to green, and a guy that can get up and down from around the greens. This is not going to be a birdie fest. This is not going to be an event where you got to go 25 under and got to make a ton of red numbers to get at the top of this leaderboard. He's won 3 times over on the DP World Tour, the former European Tour. In 2 of those situations, nobody was going low that week. It was tough conditions, and so he can play tough conditions really well. I don't love the number, but I do like the number, 50-1, I believe, in the DK book right now. And so he's my guy that I'm going with this week. But yes, I don't mind sprinkling it around a few outrights around that number and a little bigger this week.
Dude, you are in luck, Jason, because Jeff Ulrich has an odd obsession with South African golfers, and he pushes Bezuidenhout consistently here on this show.
Yeah. It's a very redeeming pick after he bashed Louis. So I like that one. I'm just going to go with the veteran South African, though, and stick to my guns. I do think this is a good spot for a guy like Louis to pick up a win. And I made him my target in the upper tier guys. So we'll go with a little bit of the chalk there in Louis at plus 1,600.
All right, good stuff, guys. Great golf talk.
That was awesome. Good stuff. Great having you on live, Jason. That's really nice to balance out
love
Jeff.
That. Yeah.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah.
Jeff, you're going to stick around because part 2 of Keep Bukes Employed is coming up next. It is time for part 2 of our brand new segment, Keep Bukes Employed. Here's the rundown again. DraftKings contributor Steve Buchanan is in a little bit of a situation. He's usually our NFL and our MLB guy, right?
Yeah, I always lean on him for so much help.
Only problem is the NFL obviously is over and MLB is in a lockout. And currently, no signs of that being resolved anytime soon. In this segment, we're going to let Bukes give some other sports a shot while our real experts tell him how he did. So we got, joining Steve this time, DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler.
Look at Reed Fowler, just like you. He looks all fresh and happy to be here after his baby moon. Like everyone's just going on baby moons.
Yeah.
All your unborn children taking nicer vacations than me. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Once again, Steve.
I brought you a magnet.
It's true. Once again, though, dude, we will start you off with a little softball. The NFL season is over. However, the fun never stops because DK has some great futures available for next season already. You can bet on next year's Super Bowl winner.
Wow.
The upcoming draft. even the 2022 Most Valuable Player. Which bet do you like in this category, Bukes?
Yeah, so, just to refresh here, all advice that you need to take seriously starts and ends after this question. So just make sure you remember that there. For the draft, though, the number 1 overall pick, I love taking Akeem Ekwonu going number 1. Earlier in the year, this is somebody who was almost 100-1 to be the number 1 pick. He is down to 8-1 at this point. Massive movement with the mock drafts coming out here. So obviously you lost a lot of the value here if you weren't getting him at that large number. With that said, though, we don't have a clear-cut number 1 draft pick for this upcoming draft. But one of the things that the Jaguars need to make sure they do is to protect their former first-round pick in Trevor Lawrence. That's what obviously this guy can do here. Lawrence was sacked 31 times, under pressure on 34% of his dropbacks last year. This is a tackle who can also play guard. I think that's going to be really clutch for the Jaguars here. So getting him at 8-1, getting some value here as the number 1 overall draft pick in this upcoming draft.
All right, Reed, you like that? I mean, Jags want to go tackle. They do want to protect Lawrence. They're possibly trading down, though.
Huh. Yeah, or, if you can't protect your quarterback, you got to get after the other quarterbacks in that division in the NFL. Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan is a guy that probably everybody has in the top board, right? That's the only alarming thing. He's 6'6", 250, and you look at his measurables and what he compares to, it's Chase Young. It's guys that have absolutely wrecked the league from the defensive end standpoint. And we see that's exactly what you need in the NFL if you want to stop these guys. So if it's not Ekwonu like Steve mentioned, I think it's Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, 2021 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Steve, an NFL future. Well, I'm not Steve, but Jeff, an NFL future you like right now in the DK Sportsbook.
Oh, and NFL, I was just going to comment on Steve's. But
Yeah.
I can definitely give.
You can
comment. You can comment on Steve, and if you want to one-up him.
I was going to give Steve some props here. Look, Doug Peterson, now the coach of the Jags. What does he play? He used to play quarterback. I think there's a good chance he goes with an offensive tackle. You could even see him trade down for Steve's boy, Ekwonu. So I don't mind this call at all. I think there is a good chance that the Jacksonville goes there. So I think right now, where you want to be focusing in though on the futures is Aaron Rodgers. This guy's dropping hints all over the place. There's a big one. The Packers are sitting at -250 to be his next team after Aaron Rodgers has dropped this sappy Instagram saying goodbye to everybody. Oh baby, there's some serious odds out here. You got the Buccaneers at +1,400. You got the Titans at +2,000. I think both those teams could definitely be in the running, and everyone's scared off them right now because of salary situations, and they haven't really been mentioned. But was the Buccaneers mentioned for Tom Brady much until it finally happened? So I think you should be looking at the Aaron Rodgers futures, and I think you should be going down the board outside the top 3. So.
Oh.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers and his fiance also splitting.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot last week. We actually dedicated almost a whole segment to it, and you really missed it.
Yeah, sorry. I wasn't watching. Time to save your job, Steve. We just talked about it at length, so maybe, hopefully, you're paying attention to the segment about the Honda Classic.
Yeah.
PGA Tour heads to Florida for its first tournament in the Sunshine State. Who would you bet on to win it all, Steve?
I got to say, I had that segment on.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking about the guy I had down at all. So that's obviously not a great sign. I had Shane Lowry penciled in for the Honda Classic. He opened up at 28-1. He's been back down to 22-1 now, okay? The Happy Euro is coming back. This is his first event in the PGA Tour this year. He went back to Europe, playing some of the Asian tours, reforming his form. Is that the correct lineage? That's fine.
Yeah.
But he's played well at the Honda Classic. He plays well on these short courses here. Maybe a little bit of wind, he can play in that. Last year, first 2 days, he did pretty well. Then he kind of imploded the last couple of days there. So obviously, maybe he's coming back. It's kind of like when baseball players, they go to Japan. They kind of refine themselves. Then they come back to where they play the most. And they go, this is where I'm going to get redemption, here in the United States of America. Okay? No more COVID lockdowns. I'm here to stay. He's going to come back, win the Honda Classic, shock everybody. 28-1, 22-1, Shane Lowry. He's a very happy guy. Keep me employed, please.
Steve is passionate.
Yeah, he is.
Reed, who are you going with?
I don't hate this pick at all. Like, especially with the logic that Steve mentioned, I don't know if reforming your form or refining your form is
in Japan too.
necessarily
In Japan,
makes
that's
sense.
the key thing. He's going to Japan to refine your form.
Right,
Europe and Asia. That's what they said.
And like what Steve is trying to say is that they're not going to the Asian tour, because if any player who's won the Open Championship goes to the Asian tour to play, he's got something seriously wrong, or he's getting a huge payday just to show up there. So he did well in what Steve was talking about. He did well on the DP World Tour over in the Middle East, where he's played his last 2 weeks, and now he's coming over to the Hana Classic. And we see a lot of these Europeans, right? A lot of these veterans come over here. Some have residence in Florida. They feel comfortable in these conditions. And we see guys who play well on these tough courses, US Open, Open Championship, also play well here at PGA National. So I don't hate it. I'm not going to bet it outright because it's 28-1 plus 2,800 on his first tournament on the PGA Tour, which is very different than the Asian Tour, Steve. But hey, not bad. At least he didn't go chalk like your boy Ulrich over there.
Jeez.
I don't know what you said.
Yeah, no, it's Lowry. He's 4 for 4, making the cut. PGA National.
Yeah, man.
Oh, so maybe Steve is onto something.
Jeff?
Jeff, yeah, how do we feel about these takes?
I like this more as like a top 10 or top 20 play, because Lowry has shown some form towards the end of the year, but it is tough to come to PGA National as your first PGA start and then just grab a win. It doesn't happen very often. Again, these Euro guys come over and they play okay, but it's such a big difference playing those soft, cushy fields over on the European Tour and then coming over and dealing with PGA National. So I like it as like a top 10 or top 20 play. I mean, I'm definitely not down on Shane Lowry. He's up there when you look at the stats. He's top 10 in strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained around the green stats, long-term form. But I'd probably prefer him more as like a top 10 bet than an outright.
T12, T24, and T14 in his last 3 starts.
Oh.
All right. Well, no one asked you, feller. So.
Bukes is on to something.
Yep, I told you.
I'm
Dude, when it's Lowry or Jesse's pick of
CT
CT
Pan,
like I don't know, dude. The internet may break.
Keep us employed,
CT
Jeff.
Pan. It's going to be CT Pan.
Seriously, dude, I can't wait for our Wednesday edition of the slate. You, Steve, and I tomorrow.
Yeah,
We'll talk a lot of golf. Time to do that hockey here. Maybe you'll be better at a little bit sticky puck here, Steve. We need a bet on tonight's 6-game NHL slate. You can find it on the DK Sportsbook. So what's it going to be?
Well, I have some bad news to share. Like, I know that there's a lot of turmoil on planet Earth right now, but it looks like my notes were leaked because this line has moved even before I gave out the bet. So somebody hacked into my computer and looked at my hockey notes, because we were going to be taking the over 6.5 points in hockey. The points, yep. We're taking over 6.5 with the Maple Leafs and Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. I mean, the Blue Jackets in particular. I mean, this team is just on fire. They can get that puck in the back of the net. They're averaging 4.4 points over their last 5 games played, okay? So the goalie's not doing anything for the opposing teams. Both these teams hitting the over consistently as of late. Maple Leafs, 9 in their last 11. Columbus, 8 of their last 9. I mean, even a non-hockey guy says that's a lot of overs. And now the number is up at 7. It was a 6.5 when I liked it. Somebody leaked the notes. It said, Steve, the hockey guru of DraftKings, has taken the over. We better hammer this soon before the public finds out. Now it's 7. You know what? I'll take the 7 too, because it's going to be 9. 9 points scored in this game.
Okay.
9 goals scored in this game.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going right now. Maple Leafs, Blue Jackets, over.
Yeah,
7.
We're talking goal total here. Yes, hockey expert. Jeff?
Yep, that's me.
I mean, look, the last time we saw a 7 total, and you don't see it very often in hockey, like at all. It went over. It was like 2 nights ago. It was the Wild and someone. But anyways, it went over. So, I mean, when you get to the 7 total, clearly, you look at these two teams. The Blue Jackets, absolutely. They're averaging like 5 goals a game over their last 6 games. And the Maple Leafs are a top 5 offense. And the Maple Leafs got absolutely embarrassed by the Montreal Canadiens of all teams last night. Austin Matthews might hit the over in this game on his own. So I am actually 100% with Steve. You're still getting plus 110 to go over 7 goals. I kind of feels like the worst case scenario here might be a push. So I like it a lot. Again, it's a 7 total. You don't see it very often, but when games hit 7, it's for a reason. You've got one really bad defense in Columbus, and then 2 really, really high-end offenses. So.
All right, we only have time for one person to answer on this next one. It's going to be you, Steve. We're diving into the obscure offerings on the DK Sportsbook. Something, maybe it's your niche. Maybe we'll find you something here. What else do you like?
And I think it's fair to say my niche is every sport because no one has disagreed with anything that I've said. Either that or they're cowards. West Side Story. Best picture plus 650. Garion was wrong. He wanted to go with the heavy favorite. What a loser. Go with an underdog here. West Side Story, directed by Steven Spielberg. He makes Jurassic Park. He makes great movies. E.T. He's going to win another one here. Classic movie. An adaptation by Steven Spielberg. West Side Story plus 650.
Jeff, quick comment, Jeff.
Listen,
Look,
there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff.
Steven's out of his element here. Steven Spielberg is one of the most overrated directors of
whoa!
our generation.
Get the hell out of here!
If you want to go with a little bit of an underdog, go with Belfast at plus 200, but stay off this West Side Story stuff. No, Steven Spielberg, what was the last good movie he made? Like E.T.?
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
Reed, real quick.
Coda. Give me Coda as a huge underdog, the only indie film out there. But West Side Story, family member Bridget's cousins are in West Side Story, so I'm gonna go with Steve.
Oh, well, that's great.
That's
And
cool.
Yang plus
everything.
2,500 Emerson to win on the Champions Tour this week. That was gonna be my call. The Colgard Classic. Why Yang?
I like Coda too because it sounds like your dog Kolu, Reed.
That's why.
Right, that's why I did it. Yeah.
Right.
Big
They
reason.
said we got to
And
wrap
thank you
it
for
up.
wearing shorts.
Oh,
Emerson.
we got to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up. Today's show was tremendous, and an all-time show. It beat the Jeff Ulrich special from last Friday. I'm looking at the ratings now. Incredible
And
stuff.
Steve is still employed, and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.